Mr. Bevis is rightfully one of the most forgettably lame tales of the Twilight Zone. Quite possibly so bad that nobody has ever defended it as a good episode. Spoilers, I hate it. And fans tend to ignore it, as it's viewed as Season 1's black sheep. If you're pondering as to why that is, well, it's because we're in another wacky comedy episode.
Why?
But believe it or not, this Twilight Zone arc is shockingly not a real Twilight Zone tale. Mr. Bevis is actually a TV pilot for a goofy supernatural buddy comedy show, which never got picked up. So in order to save money, the CBS studio hastily tossed it over on Rod Serling's Good Show, and simply reformatted it to fit with the saga's signature style, in order to avoid letting all that footage go to waste. For those of you who are too young or not media savvy like Internet Kitty, studios didn't want to lose money or trash finished projects back in the day, so in order to get their dollars worth or use for a tax write-off, they would pass rejected ideas onto their more successful shows to salvage it as something. And of course, Mr. Bevis was one of the rare Twilight Zone tales which was somebody else's idea handed down for Rod Serling to use as a filler episode to grant him time to work on the real quality gold. Luckily, this time, the Twilight Zone is not at fault for its failure, as they were more or less forced to use this as a freebie bonus episode. But the bad news, it's still a dud. After seeing this knee slapper, I totally understand why it failed to take off. Mr. Bevis is a goofy romp revolving around an eccentric, optimistic dork, the titular Bevis.
Whoa, cool.
Having his life fall apart due to a string of bad luck, forcing him to question his place in this wacky universe of his, and his own identity. Only to receive help from, no joke, a wisecracking guardian angel who offers the lost soul a second chance to rethink his world in a funnier It's a Wonderful Life sketch.
Why?
Like every zany Zone antics, it's another comedy which forgot the funny. There's a few chuckle-worthy interactions between Bevis and his angel, but nothing on par with the Addams Family. The Twilight Zone's sense of humor is already just so corny and lackluster, but this really takes the cake of bland antics. I think it tries to aim for Looney Tunes humor, but the cheap budget limits it entirely. The guardian angel, Mr. Hempstead, has a few snappy one-liners, but the main protagonist is not very interesting at all. Hempstead has apparently watched over the Bevis family tree since the dawn of man, and has only now shown up since Bevis sucks so much.
I'll wound your inner child.
He loses his job, his lousy car, and even gets evicted from his apartment all in one day. So the angel offers Bevis a new life, one where he's successful and respected by all, which naturally the Butthead accepts. However, it comes with a catch. While Bevis gets his high upper crust life and adoration, he's not the same eccentric, lovable doof he once was anymore. Bevis has now become a boring, ultra-serious, antisocial businessman. When the tale opened up, despite his string of bad luck, Bevis loves hanging out with kids, collects toys, has fun, socializes, is liked by nearly everyone who isn't his superior, and had a love for life. Which takes us to the lesson so obvious even Ray Charles could see and sing a song about it. How Mr. Bevis was perfectly fine just the the way he is. He was just so upset over one bad day that it blinded him over his great feats. Mr. Bevis liked who he was all along. It was only uptight or cynical folks who had a prob. So he begs the angel to undo his wish and goes back to the same dorkosaurus he once was, to start anew, fair and square.
You've got your head up your butt.
Where, when it seems like his bad luck is happening again, Mr. Hempstead returns to keep watch over the guy and change his vibe, meaning that Bevis and his angel are traveling along the countryside, solving other people's issues and getting into all kinds of wacky hijinks, with the angel packing some blood of Christ for the ride. Yeah, this was real. This was what the Bevis Chronicles was actually going to be about. A happy-go-lucky man-child and his invisible angel traveling the world and saving other sad souls. This was just dumb. The plot is the most predictable schmaltz you can see coming a mile away. The comedy is plain mediocre. The special effects are pretty cheap and lame. It has this cartoony tone which feels so out of place in the Twilight Zone. It lacks passion. The moral has been done so much better, even on modern stories we see today, and the main protagonist is just uninteresting. I can see why this failed as its own thing, because there's zero sense of conflict or drama in Mr. Bevis's life whatsoever. The main character was already happy with himself at the start of the arc, and knew what he sought out of life all along, as in spite of his bad luck, he still kept up his happy face. So the big soul-searching journey of finding himself has less impact as he quickly realizes how unhappy he is as serial Bevis. So how are we supposed to feel for the main character when he never fully doubts himself? The comedy, as I said, is lacking, mostly because a lot of it is a cluster of dad jokes and cheesy effects. Sometimes Hempstead cracks a good zing or shows off his funny angel skills, like how he's invisible to all but Bevis, yet it barely reaches mild funny. Oh, but I love that clock. That thing is the funniest visual all episode, but for wrong reasons.
Somebody call IHOP because I need pancakes. Hallelujah.
Overall, this episode sucks as a Twilight Zone tale, and was so lame that it didn't even have the legs to stand as its own pilot. I give this story a bronze skull. It's not a putrid pile of crap smearing this fantastic show's legacy, but it's also not even close to heavenly fun. If you ask me, Bevis never should have went solo and left Butthead.
You know, I'm glad you came back, Butthead. And yes, I know I said you came.
The Twilight Zone.